this is Goat Hens, and this is how I calibrate my gyro in a new game. So there's always something, it makes it easier if you leave one setting the same consistently and then change another. So a lot of people change the Steam config sensitivities to match the game and leave the game at default. Instead, I like to get change the game's config to match the Steam controller's sensitivities. Furthermore, the way I decided on my Steam controller sensitivity is in the menu screens or the inventory screens or desktop mode. I set the controller up so that the gyro can still let me hit small buttons, but it can also whip around the screen really quickly and easily in a relatively small range of movement. What that ended up looking like is this. So 0.125 sensitivity, high acceleration lets you hit small buttons and also make big whips. That also works well in a game where you're relying primarily on gyro, is I can whip it and get a decent, get 360 coverage, but I can still do some smaller movement. Now this is a little bit it's a little bit heavier than I'm expecting, faster. I think this game is calibrated a little too fast. So, let's see. The old way that I would calibrate is I got the controller set to the way I liked it and messed with an in-game sensitivity, that kind of thing. And then I needed to come up with something repeatable that I could do. And the first thing I did was go into the gyro, take off acceleration, and turn it always on, and then I set the controller down on a table. And I spin it in like a 360 or a 180 or something to try to get consistent behavior in the game and calibrate it that way. So right now, the way that it worked out coincidentally, and this I just discovered by making the controller work to the way it felt good, and then I turned off acceleration, set it down, and spun it around to see if it formed any sort of pattern with the game behavior. And what I discovered is that what I like is that if I set the controller flat on a surface and I do a 180, it should do a 360 in the game. So 180 on the controller, 360 in the game. Now I've just done a 180 and you see it's gone way past it, right? So I'm gonna have to correct that. So I'm finishing the controller 360. That should do 2 180s if it were set the way that I liked it, but it's not. So now we go in and we see that it's too fast, so we go into the settings and we reduce the sensitivity. I'm cheating because I know what the sensitivity needs to be in this game to feel good. 5.2. 520. There. And now that should be exactly right. So now the controller's sitting on a flat surface. I'm going to turn it a 180. And that looks good. And I'm going to turn the controller all the way back around to a 360, and now it's done. 360 on the controller is 2 360s in the game, 2-to-1 ratio. It works this way because it's easy to tell when you've spun the controller all the way around once. It's a little harder to judge if you've done a 180 exactly right. And measuring in-game 360s lets you just pick a spot on the wall and see it that way. So now it's been calibrated exactly the way I like it. Put the gyro back to touch, high acceleration, and now this is more what I like. So there, this is like turning the controller in like a 90-degree wedge in front of me. I can easily cover a 360 area, but I can still, kind of tighten up and make fine type pointing. Alright, cool. So then, where that gets us to is, that whole process was annoying, right? Took me 5 minutes to just talk about it. It really takes me like 15, 20 minutes in a new game, and it really sucks if you don't have a compass like this game has to help you kind of sight it in better. So what I did was, once I got a game perfectly sighted in, I looked at mouse delta, because mouse delta it's static, and so as long as you never change the Steam controller sensitivities, the mouse delta relative to the game settings is always going to behave the same. So what I did was, I go into a game that I had done this calibration on, and it was just exactly right, and I go in and I start messing with mouse deltas, and I see what this button does in the game. And eventually what I came down to was, a button set to a specific mouse delta will pull a precise 90-degree turn. So I just mash it 4 times, and it should leave me pointed right back where I am. So by having it only do 90-degree turns, there's 2 reasons for that. One, I can more visually track that it's working right. So imagine if it were like triple the sensitivity you wanted and you mashed it. You don't want to try to one button 360 and hope that it works, because you can't tell if you're pulling multiple spins, that kind of thing. Now, intentionally making it do only a 90-degree, you can easily tell that you're just doing 90-degree turns. You turn the FOV up, you can even probably see the left side of the screen move to the right side of the screen and visibly match it up, right? Another reason why I only do 90-degree turns is because it just happened to work out in this way that once I adjusted the delta to be exactly right, it's this 1432 number, but you see, I can't go that much further. I can't make a 180 with the limitation of the mouse delta binding. I could only go lower, so maybe I could do like a 120, so you only mash it 3 times, but I thought 90 degrees was a little better. And I love the delta because you can do a per individual button, individual number granularity, which is really great. So, some games, this works really smoothly. Some games have options that let you mess with the sensitivity to this level of detail, and you can get it exactly like you want. And sometimes, you have a little slider that goes from 0 to 10, and you get it close enough, right? So the way I do it now is I just start a game, and I find a button to be this 1432 mouse delta, and I just mash it 4 times and see if I've about done a 360, and if I haven't, I go in and adjust the in-game sensitivity accordingly. And none of this stuff affects the behavior of the cursor. Like a cursor, I just mash the button and, completely overshoots the width of a 1080p screen. This probably is relevant to your screen as well, so if I ever get like a 4K screen, it's probably not going to work, but, that's how I do it. So, hope that made sense.